All righty, looks like the recording is on, so we can kick off today's Connect 313 community conversation. I guess I should change it from stakeholder convening one of these days. So we can go ahead and get started. So Josh, you want to give your intro with the agenda of what we're going on, or I can keep talking?
No, for some reason I'm only seeing there we go. I was only seeing your face. That's fine. But yes, wanting to thank everyone for our latest and greatest Connect 313 community conversation, where we will be focusing on our committees, subcommittees, and you see the agenda in front of you. One of the things specifically around our general updates, we've had a lot of momentum, and our partners are going to be able to share those throughout the call, but wanting to touch on some of the other things that are specific to the work that I guess Joshua. So recently, we were able to be appointed to the FCC's Intergovernmental Advisory Committee. That is a committee of 40 different municipalities and will comprise municipalities as well as lieutenant governors who are representing their respective geographies around the digital divide and looking at policy activation. I still am a little bit incredulous that I got nominated to head the telehealth committee, but regardless, that is going to be something that you're going to see a lot more of from me, the telehealth angle. However, this is something where as we begin looking at our opportunity to engage specifically Washington, that's just one way for us to be able to activate that, as well as earlier today, our work was nominated by the FCC DOER, which is the Digital Opportunity Equity Recognition Program. I think that's how it goes. But regardless, we were nominated for that by Commissioner Starks, who's been a great champion for the urban digital divide at the FCC level. And so I guess next slide, when we're looking at the origin, this is where I'm going to actually turn this over to our great partner, Laura Granneman, who's just been instrumental in getting Connect 313, not only the exposure from the Quicken Rock family of companies, but broader in the larger community. And she's been a great partner. So Laura, please feel free to take it away with respect to our Connect 313 origins.
Hey, Josh. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much. Glad to be here with all of you. Wanted to talk through again. I know a lot of folks on this call probably are very familiar with our origins because a lot of you guys have been here from the very beginning, and we really appreciate that. We always want to bring people along with us as we go. So wanted to just take a step back and remind everybody how we got here, because it is because all of the work that you guys do across the city that allowed us to get to this point. And of course, a lot of us have been focused on bridging the digital divide for a long time. That said, we also saw during the pandemic just an absolutely increased amount of attention on bridging the digital divide because we saw just the absolute disparity between folks who are able to stay connected to things like healthcare, jobs, education, even just plain social connection. And so that has become increasingly a common topic. And we wanted to make sure that not only are we building up the work that each and every one of you do across the community, but also that we are allowing a platform for everybody to connect and for us to really think about what bridging the digital divide looks like holistically across our community. There are a lot of terrible things that have come out of this pandemic, and I don't think there's any sugarcoating that. But it's also a moment in time for us to take a step back as a community and say, how can we as a community come together and create systemic change during this very difficult time? And that's what a lot of our partners have done. So Connect 313 was really an opportunity for us to come together. It was launched through a partnership between the City of Detroit, the United Way of Southeastern Michigan, and the Rocket Mortgage Classic, which, as many of you on the call know, is Detroit's PGA Tour event that also gives significant capital back into our community. The Rocket Mortgage Classic just announced on Tuesday that we are really, really excited to be able to invest $2.1 million into Connect 313. So we will have the funding and ability for us to work together as a community as part of this group, this conversation, and as part of all of our subgroups and working groups to be able to drive that capital towards bridging the digital divide and do so together. So I'm going to go to the next slide and talk about some of our values. When we came together as the United Way, the City of Detroit, and the Rocket Mortgage Classic, we knew that we couldn't do this alone. And we also knew that we didn't want to do it in a way that was sort of typical. We weren't just going to write a check and be done because that doesn't help us think about sustainability as a community. It's not going to get to the root of the problem. We wanted to take a different approach collectively to really make sure that we're keeping community at the front of everything that we do and hear from a diverse group of stakeholders, from all of you, and make sure that this is not just an engagement process, but really that it is a community-led process. So you will see as we go through the agenda that we have for today, and hopefully every agenda that we have ever, you will see that there are specific opportunities for community and stakeholders to be represented at every level of decision-making throughout our governance structure. So we are not only committed to that in name, but we are actually making sure that decision-making is something that community is an explicit part of. Through that, we want to make sure that we're keeping equity at the center of everything that we do as well. So we are not about just making sure that everyone has equal resources, but equitable resources, and ensuring that all across our community, while we know there are some huge disparities based on geographic location, based on race, and based on socioeconomic status, we are not just going to meet everybody with equal resources, but we're going to meet you where you're at. So it is about helping to provide equitable resources across our community and looking at our City of Detroit through the lens of equity to make sure that our resources are allocated accordingly. And the last thing, if we can do the first two things correctly, the last thing will come very naturally. But the last piece is trust, and trust building has to happen alongside all of this. And it's not just about trust of those of us that are on the phone, although that's certainly extremely important. It's also about trust for every one of our Detroit residents who needs to be able to connect with the resources that we're trying to lift up and advocate for and build. So the way that we're going to do this, there's many ways that we're going to think about trust as part of everything that we do, but one very key way is going to be part of our data-driven strategy. We are going to make some specific commitments about what we as a group are going to do. We have specific outcomes in mind, and we're aligning around those outcomes. We're going to say that we're going to do something, and then we're going to do that thing. We're going to follow up with not only action, but also data-driven results. So that's a key part of how we're all going to come together and how we're going to define success. And I think I'm going to throw it back over to you, Josh. So thanks for having me, and it's good to see you all again.
Yes, thank you, Laura. Those are great words, and honestly, the emphasis on values will never get old. Quite frankly, you should probably start with those, and so that's an indictment on me. However, moving on, Jordan, can you click the next slide for us?
Yes, absolutely.
This is where we're able to turn it over to another core partner that you heard Laura mention, the United Way for Southeast Michigan, specifically United Way's Chief Impact Officer, Tanya Adair, where we were able to transition looking at, one, our initial investments, and the progress we're making on those. So Tanya, please feel free to take it from here.
Hi, thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. So United Way is honored to serve as a fiduciary in this great effort. As such, we've agreed to keep this team updated on the incoming and outgoing funds for the Connect 313 initiative. The work for Connect 313 we know is mission critical, especially now with the need for virtual learning resources and for methods to connect community members to the needed services and resources. I thought it would be important for us to mention the Detroit Charter School Initiative because I see it as an extension of the Connect 313 umbrella that's focused on devices. Also, although a separate fund, this connectivity initiative in partnership with Skillman and Detroit Children's Fund really focused on efforts to provide technology devices and connectivity to Detroit's charter school students. I say an extension of Connect 313 because many of you were instrumental in supporting this effort, and it is an effort that is focused on the devices, which is also one of the associated work groups for Connect 313. So it is very important that we see this as a part of the umbrella. And so with that said, to date, we've awarded more than $1.5 million to Detroit charter schools to support over 8,000 high school students and recent graduates with technology devices and connectivity. Additionally, we were able to help close the gap this summer for the Growing Detroit Young Talent efforts by providing funds to support more than 1,200 GDYT students with devices for the virtual work experiences. In such a short time, connectivity efforts supported by Connect 313 collaboration, in collaboration with other efforts, has been able to make an impact on hundreds of youth in the city of Detroit. And we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to be a part of making history and changing lives. As fiduciary, an active supporter and engaged partner in this work, we're also building our fundraising efforts for Connect 313 as we continue to raise funds to support bridging the digital divide, along with funds from the Rocket Mortgage and all of you who have been supportive. I want to highlight one of United Way's Run United virtual marathons that's happening right now. So if you want to go onto the website and sign up, all of the proceeds from those efforts will also go towards connectivity devices. So if you want to sign up for that, that's great. I'm going to walk 25 miles. I've been walking 2 miles a day to get to my 25 by October 18th. So feel free to do the same. Or if you're ambitious, if you want to run 25 in one day, go for it. But all of those proceeds, as they will go toward devices for Detroit students as well. Previously, we talked about funding for data services. We've completed phase 1 of 5 in the data services model. And in phase 4, the data will be readily available to Connect 313 members. So I know you're excited about that because that's progress. In the spirit of providing equitable access to digital resources, we recently applied for CARES Act dollars to support devices for senior citizens to be able to connect to healthcare resources. Today, we can let you know unofficially that we have been selected as an award recipient for the Michigan Coronavirus Task Force on Racial Disparities for Connect 313's Connecting Seniors Initiative, with more than $3.8 million being awarded for this efforts in partnership with Focus Hope, Wayne State University, and Human IT. So that is to be celebrated as well. The goal is to distribute, take some time, clap, cheer. That's right. The goal is to distribute devices, training, and healthcare services to 4,000 seniors and their caregivers. And we're really excited about those efforts. Lastly, on the incoming side, we've also received a grant from Microsoft to help community residents build digital literacy and digital skills. That grant is for $150,000, I believe. And we're just really excited about the incoming grants, the efforts that are happening around Connect 313 and being able to lift up the brand and the name and the work that is needed to help bridge the digital divide. It's been stated before, but I'll say it again and over again. We continue to be as diplomatic as possible as we do everything we can to lift the brand and the work of Connect 313 as we press to address the needs of the Detroit community in partnership with all of you, because we want to see this community win. We will continue to seek funding and distribute as judiciously as possible in the interim period and eagerly, I say eagerly, await the establishment of governance structures to be put in place to assure that efforts are entirely community driven for years to come. We're excited about that. And finally, we will continue to seek support from experts in this space to help guide the work. With that said, we want you to know that minimal Connect 313 funding is being spent on personnel. Therefore, we continue to primarily rely on volunteer efforts and support provided by all of you as members of the Community Advisory Council. It is from this pool of individuals who are invested at both the personal and organizational level that leadership will be elected and decisions will be made. And we're really excited about that. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for volunteering and being a part of this great initiative. It's something that we'll all be proud of for years to come. And I just want to see this community win, and I know all of you do. So thank you for all of your efforts and everything that you're putting into it. So I'll turn it back to Josh.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that was fantastic, Tanya. Thank you for reporting out and for bringing the passion and the energy. Really felt that. Jordan, as we transition to the next slide, want this time to take the time to highlight some of our Connect 3 and 3 members. So as you all know, every single call we do a member spotlight, and the first one, wanted to lift up Sandra Ware with Power to Dream. Sandra, she's incredible. You all probably know her. she's everywhere, and really glad to have her in our corner as we're looking at bridging this digital divide. So, Sandra, are you on?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and great background.
Okay. Awesome. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to acknowledge and celebrate the Connect 313 team. I am fired up and ready to just go and do more work. So I promise I'm going to keep this very brief. But Joshua, thank you. Thank you. And I'm just excited to be here. I'm just going to share briefly. Laura mentioned, how did we get here? So I want to talk a little bit about how I got here. So through Power to Dream and Avail Services, I work with tech companies to connect them to schools in the city of Detroit. But how I got here was in 2013, I had the opportunity to actually sneak in 2 8th graders to Microsoft's Minority Student Day, which was technically for high school seniors and juniors. So as a result of that, I committed to the Microsoft team, hey, my 2 students, they won't cause any problems. You won't even hear from them. They're just here to take notes and observe. Well, at the end of the presentation at the Microsoft Minority Student Day, the students inquired about internships. My student inquired about a job interview. So with that, someone at Microsoft said, give the young man the interview, and he was 12 years old. So as a result of that opportunity being extended to that young man, because he had the courage to ask, with that, that's how Power to Dream was birthed. Because I had to go back to the school, create a resume, submit it to Microsoft. They gave this young man a 3-hour experience, 1-hour interview, a tour of the technical facilities. Microsoft was in Southfield at the time. And they also just had like a one-on-one mentoring session with the team of Microsoft representatives. So from that, the question became, if that opportunity could be extended for one student, what happens when you open up the opportunities for hundreds of students? And that's where the first Power to Dream Youth Tech and Innovation Camp came from. And in 2013, I hosted the first camp. Everything that I do for young people, it's free, because I want to eliminate barriers for parents. I want to give our students access, high quality programming, and the experience. So the students, for a full week, they focused on robotics, rocketry, web design. So they were actually able to build and create, and they had a portfolio when they left the camp. And Microsoft powered that just through, again, their partnership. So with that, Forbes, I didn't know about it. Forbes did a story on the tech camp called Detroit Youth Are Powered to Dream. That's when I knew you got to keep it going. So every year I committed to hosting these technology experiences for young people. And in addition to that, also empowering their parents and grandparents, because they were there just kind of at the camp. So we decided to host digital literacy training for the grandparents, helping the parents create resumes, Excel spreadsheets for those parents who are looking to start businesses. So they had their own hours of innovation. So now we're empowering and impacting the families. So again, every year with the tech camp. So now it's more, Hour of Code Detroit initiatives. It's Super Colosso Tech Saturday series. So working with nonprofits and again, other tech companies to just show them how we can connect and build opportunities for students, not just when they prepare for college, but let's start professional development in middle school, in high school. So once they have the computer science down, now they're able to build out a LinkedIn profile. They're able to go in and actually interview and present well. So you're equipping them and they can teach those skills to their siblings or to other students. So it's like train the trainer, if you will. So that has been my mission, and I'm excited to link and just collaborate and just really impact our young people and support our parents in making sure that they are equipped, they have access, they have opportunity, and they have exposure. And that is the game changer. So that's my jam.
Whew. Well, I think we can end the webinar here. One, thank you again for taking the time to share more about your story, and then for the great work that you do. You saw the questions in the, well, you're going to click on the chat and see what everyone was saying about you.
Oh,
all great
okay.
things. And I'm going to turn this over to Darian Stevens now. Darian, are you on? If
Yep,
you
I'm
are,
here.
you
Are you guys
might
able to hear me?
you might be on mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I didn't know, Josh, is this outside the scope of doing like some slides? I had threw together some visual slides, but if not, I can totally just follow up and just talk over it if that's better.
Yeah, no, I think right now if you could
sure.
just share. Oh, okay, Jordan, you're giving the okay. I was just more so saying if you can just kind of give your background very similar to what Sandra was able to do, and then
Yeah.
yeah. So
If
yeah,
you
go
have
ahead.
slides and Josh, you want to make him a host, he can put them up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was. Oh, okay. There does have to be a permissions thing. Okay, I won't make it more complicated. No worries. But thanks, Josh. My name is Darian Stevens. Everybody. I'm a Detroit native, born and raised, software developer, ed tech entrepreneur. Just here to share a little bit about a startup I've been working on the last few years. Kind of focused on the K-12 space, which the problem around it was really just a group that have always been terrible historically for teachers and students. It's always a really difficult way of grading and evaluating the students to know that which students actually can do anything on the project. For the last few years, we've been trying to solve that problem prior to COVID, before all of this hit. We had over 600,000 students take at least one online class K through 12 from 2018 and 19 in Michigan. So we already had really high numbers, and that's just going to go up with COVID. But the thing is, we only had 55% virtual pass rates. So 45% of students were failing at least one of those online classes. And we think the heart of that is really the accountability piece. The same issue with group projects is pretty much across the board with e-learning. It's really hard to track what's actually happening. So essentially our platform does that for teachers in real time. We allow the teachers to create projects and groups. Students can go in and assign themselves to tasks, and we keep track of what was done on time, late, or incomplete by the students. And then everything is just transparent for the group members, the teacher, and the students as well. So one of the, I guess, big upcoming things is that later this year in December 11th specifically, we partnered with some other organizations. It's called MAX, Michigan Accelerate CS. And it's a combination of organizations kind of similar to how everyone has their own kind of mission here, coming together under an umbrella and to put on a Guinness World Record attempt for most students to complete an online computer science lesson in 24 hours. So that information will, I'm sure, get sent out as soon as our flyer is ready next week for anybody who has like nieces, nephews, children, students who might be interested in participating and getting that kind of intro to computer science curriculum and just understanding, as well as participate in something really cool, first time being able to kind of change that narrative behind e-learning for Michigan. So I'll pass it back over to Josh. I appreciate it. Glad to speak with anybody. I'm on the digital literacy team, so I'm glad to speak with anybody or follow up with everyone else afterwards. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Darian. And Darian, for all that he said, he was actually being humble too and very modest. Him and I have had a few great discussions. We were able to grab lunch prior to the pandemic, but nonetheless, glad to see you. And actually, we're going to turn over to Tan, who obviously was part of the lunch when we were discussing the Guinness Book of Records attempt. So this is actually going to be some nice continuation there, which really speaks to the larger synergy between a lot of these different actors in Detroit who are coalescing around this larger common goal. So Tan, feel free to jump in here.
Yeah, should I stop sharing so he can pull up his slides? Josh, did you give him permission?
He should be a panelist too.
I want to say thank you, Joshua, and the team for allowing me to be part of this great group. I'm a huge believer on the Connect 313 initiative. I am the executive director of the Accelerate for Kids Foundation. We shorten it, usually we call it Accelerate for Kids. We're based in Tech Town. We've been out here since 2016. Our core mission is just to provide computer science and technology education, and that's quality technology education for kids who are from kindergarten all the way up to adulthood, so that they can too have a life of opportunities and prosperity. And since then, we partnered with over 50 different nonprofit organizations. And it's funny what Tanya was mentioning about, having the work that you're doing to get devices out to charter school and Detroit public schools. We've started that even before the announcement of the funding that came to the Detroit public school, and start working with some of our nonprofits who had issues right around March. And we came up with a program that we were able to got support from Imagine Theaters, our friend Paul Glantz, and Wayne State University, to provide us some funding so that we could buy new laptops for our nonprofit organization and their families. And since then, as you heard, the schooling as well as charter school, now they have access. So, we felt like we did our part. So that was so exciting that we did our part. In regards to what we're doing right now is that, as what Darian's mentioned, and I think he is being kind of, very nonchalant about this because he's a big part of it, as a matter of fact. I'm a serial entrepreneur, have two software companies. Accelerate for Kids is a nonprofit. It's something that's true to my heart that I wanted to give back to Detroit. I've been here for over 15 years, doing a lot of work, especially in the startup community. And so because of that, I have kids myself. I believe education is so important that we decided to do something large. Back last year, sitting down with Joshua, we decided to do like a hackathon, a Guinness World Record hackathon event. And with everything that was going on, we kind of put it on the back burner due to the fact that we were trying to get laptops for every child and every kid, which is part of the Connect 313 initiative. Then came MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, decided that they wanted to do a coding for kids. And we've been a big supporter of them. And they were one of the only state-run organizations that worked with Google CS first to launch it in the state of Michigan. So we were going to run this event back in May at the Little Caesar Arena with a lot of support. But as you know, with the pandemic, we had to pivot. So that pivot led to this. And thanks for Josh for putting this up. It's called, a group of us called the Michigan Accelerate Computer Science, which includes Darian with WhoSaid, as well as Google, MEDC, Wayne State University, Detroit Public School, Oakland School Education Foundation. And what we did was we said, it was kind of a brainchild of Accelerate for Kids. And we said, hey, Guinness World Records said there's an opportunity for us to break the record for most user to take an online computer programming lesson within 24 hours. And we said, what's the number that we had to beat? 500. I said, we'll take it. 500, we'll take it. So we said, so since back in June, we started this group, we call it MAC, which is Michigan Accelerate Computer Science, with the organization we mentioned. And we start launching, planning it. And now we're about a few days away launching our website. And the whole goal here is to get these kids introduced to computer science. If not already introduced it, if they are, then they'll just be relearning about this. It's not only about teaching them about computer science, but there's so many things that's going on in this world that we wanted to an uplifting event. And this is why we got MEDC involved, is because we are hosted in Detroit. We're in Tech Town, and we want it to be a Detroit thing. And we know that there's a lot of things that's going around, not only the pandemic, but the racial injustice. And we felt we got to do something. And this was one of the outcome of it. And because of that, MEDC came aboard and we said, well, even though you're hosting Detroit, can we make this into a Michigan thing? So we got MEDC involved as well as Michigan Department of Education. And I just want to share with you this one video. And I'm going to share with you because it's one of our latest supporter. And I'm going to just go ahead and let me see here.
Do you need me to stop sharing my screen or?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right, and I'm going to just, hopefully you can see my, my screen. I'm going to show you this video and hopefully you all recognize her.
Hi everyone, I'm Congresswoman Haley Stevens, here to say that computer science and software engineering is so important to Michigan's future and our ability to create jobs and to continue to grow our economy. And it is beyond exciting to see what Accelerate Kid in Wixom is doing today. Trying to break this world record. They have the most number of users take a computer programming lesson in 24 hours. You guys are so cool. Thanks for knocking everyone's socks off. Go get them. I got your back.
So as you all know, that was Congresswoman Haley Stevens, a good friend. And we've also got other stakeholders involved. We're waiting for Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist to be involved, as well as probably a proclamation from the governor herself. And then Joshua here is already on board. He was, like I said, way back in the fall, we actually started this conversation with him. So there's a lot of stakeholders in here. My ask for you, and I know that I'm gonna go back into my slide here, but pretty much my ask for you is either be a sponsor. And so we have 3 levels of sponsor: gold, silver, and bronze. Be volunteers. We got Google who's going to be volunteering. Google Ann Arbor and Detroit, they're a big contributor, as well as promoting. So Andrew Humphrey from WDIV has already done an interview with us. We're slowly going to do with WXYZ as well as Fox News. So a lot of these things, we're needing your help. Our ask is, how can we do this together? Because our mission is, this is not just a Detroit thing. This is not just a Michigan thing. This is to unite everyone together. And our goal is that if we can make this happen, we're going to make history for the state. And so the next slide is that if you do want to be sponsored, we got sponsorship here. We have a budget that we put together. Guinness World Records does not do this all for free. So understand that this is something we have to do. And we're trying to raise over close to $12,000. Again, we've already got good support from Google, MEDC, as well as Detroit Public School District. So my ask is that if you can be a sponsor, great, ping me. The other thing is that if you can't, please be aware that we are taking volunteers and asking for anybody who wants to be part of our team. So with that, all I can say is I want to say thank you for Joshua for allowing me to announce this, because we are really excited about this. We know we're going to break the record, and everyone, every kid, every adult who's going to be participating in this is going to get a certificate.
Well, one, that was incredible. So thank you for that and the work that you're doing. I think that he's overthinking me. Yeah, I had some conversations, but no. That's under his leadership, and him and Darian have just been a really dynamic duo and have been able to accomplish some incredible feats in a very short amount of time. But that's no surprise when you are in a community like Detroit, and it's great to see Tara. I keep forgetting your last name, Tara, because I want to say Reefsec. I know you just got married. However, Tara from Google did put it within the chat that Google has already came in at $10,000 worth of supporting. And so those are the type of investments where we look at Connect 3 and 3 in a broader fashion of us being able to take these community initiatives. And everyone always talks about me cutting down this lag time, saying operationalizing, this is what we're talking about. We have a community here where we all wanted this digital divide to be bridged. And so for us to be able to have initiatives like this, there are so many more in the pipeline, so many more that are going to get exposure that are really going to be transformative. And so when everyone's saying we're making history, no one's saying that lightly. History is being made every single time that we're able to capitalize on these investments, and this is no different. So yeah, we're 100% behind you, Todd. This is an incredible thing. Jordan, do you want to go back to sharing your screen again?
Sure thing. Let's pull up that presentation again. Boop.
Because now we're going to transition into Connect 313 and how it's working. So this is where we've been having the conversation. Obviously, we've been able to have some member spotlights, but at the end of the day, when we began talking about Connect 313 governance, Tanya Adair had said within her reporting that we are earnestly building out this Connect 313 governance structure. So ultimately, what's separating us from what you're seeing in maybe other communities across the country, that this isn't just a group of nonprofits or a loose group of folks. This is built on to have governance, decision-making, organization that is stress tested and built to last, so that way we can attract more resources. We've already been able to do that with the state, and as more opportunities arise, we want to have our governance reflect the level of sophistication that's needed to actually get this work done. And so transitioning, Jordan, would you like to walk through the Connect 313 structure?
Sure. Happy to help. So, just kind of starting at the top again, the way that we presented this in our last meeting is looking at kind of these three different components of the Connect 313 structure. There is the governance component, to which all of you belong. It is the community council and all the different committees and subcommittees that kind of come out of the council. Right now, that is in the form of work groups that so many of you have been participating on, and we really, really appreciate that. But come January, it's going to look like committees and subcommittees. So that's really what we're here to talk about today in terms of updates to the structure. The idea of governance is still the same. It's about generating ideas, turning them into decisions so that the entire initiative can kind of move forward. And then the other two levels of the Connect 313 structure are really about the management of, how do those decisions actually get turned into a plan of action, and then the implementation component, which is really about taking that plan and actually putting it into action and doing the thing, actually acting on that idea that everyone came up with. So, we just wanted to kind of make sure that everyone had a good baseline understanding of what that first component looks like, that governance structure, where there are, didn't fix the font, but that's fine. There's the board and the council, and then there is an intermediate group, which consists of both appointees from the board and the leadership that y'all are going to elect from the council. And that middle group is going to be meeting more frequently and making sure that everything continues to move forward, even if the board isn't meeting quite as frequently. And then there are committees that come out of the council, which kind of are evolving from the work groups that we have running currently. And in those committees, their main job is to come up with recommendations. And the way that those committees are going to come up with recommendations is through subcommittees. So the primary role of subcommittees and the primary type of subcommittees that we'll be going over today is about the subcommittees who form recommendations. So when anyone within the council has an idea and says, you know what, there should be a program that helps seniors get connected to telehealth, that's an idea that would get brought to the relevant committee. So all of the subcommittees are really dependent on there being a relevant committee. So if you have an idea about how to rescue more kittens, there's maybe not a relevant committee for that. So that wouldn't be an idea kind of within the scope of Connect 313. But if you have a relevant idea, that proposal gets brought to the relevant committee, and that committee gets to kind of decide, okay, is this really relevant for our group, or maybe does this need to live with another group? Is this something that we can kind of see moving forward with? If so, that then triggers the formation of a subcommittee. So that subcommittee consists of a group of people who do not have to be committee members. They do not even need to be council members. But that group is going to work and flesh out that proposal into like a more formal recommendation. So there'll be a template that they're kind of filling out that really allows them to think about, okay, what are all the different pieces that would have to be put together in order for this recommendation to actually work in the world? So figuring out what's the population that we're addressing? What's the problem that we're trying to solve with this recommendation? Who would need to be involved in this? They get to sit down and really think through all of those different questions and build out that recommendation, which then comes back to the committee to kind of trigger that decision-making process. So just kind of walking through, the subcommittees are formed, and the chair of the committee can, kind of recommend different folks who maybe would be a good fit for that subcommittee, or the person who proposed the idea could come up with a list of, I really think that we need somebody who has expertise working with seniors to help us think through this idea. So here's some folks that I think should be in the room. And again, any council member can submit an idea. So it could be a board member. It could be somebody who's just joined some of these calls occasionally. It could be somebody who has been through, us this whole time in a working group. Anyone can come up with a good idea. And then, once that committee has said it's relevant for the committee, we want to move forward with it, that's when a subcommittee is formed. And once they have filled out that recommendation template, that's what triggers this whole decision-making process that we have reviewed in the past. So, you start with this, the groundwork is really laid in that subcommittee. They really think about all of those relevant details that make a really strong recommendation. Then that recommendation gets voted on in that committee to move forward. Once they think, okay, this is really solid, this is a great idea, this is definitely something that we can act on, it goes to the whole council. The whole council gets a chance to review that recommendation and provide feedback. So that's, everyone on this call, everyone who's participated in any of our previous calls, anyone who lives in Detroit, works in Detroit, or learns in Detroit gets the opportunity to sit on that council and to provide recommendation or feedback on these recommendations. Then, kind of depending on what type of recommendation it is and kind of where it fits within the budget, that's when it goes to a vote. So if it is under 50K, it's a just smaller decision. It can be made at that kind of interim level. And if it's a larger, more expensive decision, then it needs to be voted on by the board. And there's kind of a cyclical nature there where sometimes you might come up with a really good idea, but the recommendation has not thought through all of those different questions. So it may need to get workshopped a little bit, and that's what that kind of the cyclical nature is there. There will also be other types of subcommittees that are possible to form, but these are all secondary to the goal of forming recommendations. So some examples of other types, this is not, all the ones that could possibly exist in the world, but we may want to have subcommittees that are there to just review the implementation of approved recommendations. So if we had a whole bunch of recommendations that all went through together and they were all about digital literacy, creating, new training for a programming language that did not previously exist, we might want to have some oversight into how that's going, and we would want to form a subcommittee around that, brand new body of work. We also can form subcommittees on kind of ongoing tasks. So for example, event planning. If we wanted to do annual events for Digital Inclusion Week and annual events around back to school and annual events around like graduation time, that's going to be kind of an ongoing body of work that is going to need people to be kind of leaning in on that space. So that's an example of a subcommittee that could form where they're just, kind of continuously churning on that. And then we can form subcommittees around kind of specific niche areas of interest as it pertains to whatever that committee is working on. So we could have a subcommittee that formed around just the population of seniors. If we're getting a lot of recommendations that are around how do we better serve seniors and how do we better connect them to the types of services and devices and connectivity that are really going to benefit them the best, we might want to have a group who just have expertise in working with seniors to be kind of continuously reviewing those recommendations or continuously looking for any kind of research or funding or anything that's out in the world that pertain to just that specific population. So we could form a subcommittee just about that. And that's really kind of where we're at currently in terms of how all of these subcommittees will, yes, event planning, I see that one. How all of these subcommittees will develop over time. And so I just wanted to take just a quick second to see if anyone had any questions about that, because I know we have had some questions in the past around, how you can join a subcommittee. Is it possible to join a subcommittee if you're not part of the committee? Anything like that. If you raise your hand, I will unmute you, or if you drop something in the chat, I will respond to that. Okay, it looks like we are good. So Josh, I will turn it over to you to talk about kind of the timeline of what we're looking at in the future.
Yes. So thank you, Jordan, for going through that structure. It's really refreshing to be able to actually articulate it in a way where if those of you who are with us in the very beginning in July, really the only thing we talk about is the council. And so there's been a tremendous amount of progress. And obviously that's not just, for some of the folks you're seeing on this call, this is where the working groups are really, really valuable. And so for all of you who have been on our work group calls, who've been able to get in front of our subcommittee, committee statements, all of this is getting blended together. So we can't do this without you. So thank you for that continued feedback. So as we look at this Connect 313 timeline, as I said in the beginning, in July, we're really looking at one, what the heck is Connect 313? We've been able to answer that, and then focusing on that community council. And so that was really, we're like, all right, anyone who lives in Detroit, has work in Detroit, learns in Detroit, boom, community council. But then we followed up by saying, well, all right, the natural progression of things would be to answer the question, if there's a council, well, how's work actually getting, pushed forward? And that's where we started focusing on the committees. And, thank you for those who joined us in August. And realistically, it should have been like September 30th, but it just fell for October 1st. But regardless, for today, as we delved into the subcommittees, meaning the people where we're going to take this structure component one step further and being on the ground to ensure that, one, as we look at this larger operation, we're able to cut down lag time and continuously put forth recommendations for us to be able to improve our community. And so the next thing, as we've already gone through all of the aspects of the governance structure, now we're transitioning to say, well, who leads that work? Because it's not me. It's really looking at getting folks, and Jordan had alluded to this, nominating and electing. And yes, we're very well aware that we're literally talking about nominating, electing within election season. However, there's no time like the present. And so as we are transitioning next month, you see November 12th, we will be sending communications after this meeting, as well as reminders, as well as getting you all's feedback on, one, putting together a list and getting those council folks nominated to then ideally partake in the election procedure. And so January, we've never deviated from that. We've said that this entire time from July to January is really us getting our bearings to be able to turnkey this entire operation and to really start firing on all cylinders here. So January is really when we're looking to kick everything off. Right now, we're going through the motions, getting a better understanding, while at the same time not losing any momentum to the time, specifically evident how we've been able to at least get some more funding allocated to our Connect 313 fund, for which our council leadership will be able to make the allocations based on the work recommendations made at the subcommittee level. And so as we transition to the next slide, want to be able to focus on, okay, yeah, introducing Micah Burley. Micah comes to us now by the Quicken Loans Community Fund. However, I'll let Micah introduce herself and as well as highlight a bit more of her role as relates to Connect 313.
Hello, everyone. As Josh said, I am Micah Burley. So I come from the Quicken Loans Community Fund, where I am the Digital Equity and Inclusion Program Manager on our Education and Employment team, and also have the privilege of serving as the Community Manager for Connect 313. It's really exciting to be able to serve in a way that combines so many collaborative efforts from the nonprofit and private sectors, as well as the community, to work to create systems of equity for digital inclusion. So I am ecstatic to be here. Please reach out to me if you guys have any questions that I can help to answer. And also please reach out to me if there are conversations that we can have to help, further our collective knowledge of digital equity and inclusion.
Wonderful. And as a bit of support, I'll also say, and I should have said this at the very beginning of like the entire call, our Connect 313 website is live. And so please make a point to head over to connect313.org. And the recording, yeah, Tara, I see that you're saying yay. I know it was a long time coming, but it is live. The first iteration of it is live. This is not full build. So for those who are saying, well, what about this? What about that? Yes, I understand the what abouts more than anybody. However, we have something up and it's something for which folks can be directed there to get involved. And in addition, these recorded webinars are actually living there too. So that way, if folks are missing that, they're able to tune in on every single one of these that we've been able to do since July. And so as we look at the next slide, this is an opportunity for us to share in the work groups, specifically for advocacy and ecosystem. Cezanne, are you ready to share a little bit about yourself and the Advocacy and Ecosystem Work Group?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Cezanne Charles. I'm one half of Root of Two. The other half is John Marshall, who you can also see. So we're a hybrid design studio that does a lot of strategy and foresight and creative projects that really center on design and technology, and also the social and cultural implications of design and technology for society. Now that's a huge mouthful, but a lot of the times what it means is that we're really curious about interrogating the equity implications for digital access. It also really means that we think that culture has an important and vital role to play in how we sense make and storytell and think about digital inclusion, both within the city of Detroit, as well as we're thinking about larger digital transformations that's happening in society. And so for me, advocacy and ecosystem is a place that grounds and combines all that work. John is very busy in the devices and connectivity work group, I will say. But I'm always thinking about, kind of with a sort of science and technology public policy background to my practice, how can we really think about those systemic ecosystem infrastructural supports that allow us all to go together when we think about digital transformation and inclusion in this city. And so one of the things that's become really clear is that advocacy and ecosystem feels like a network of networks of people who are generating both ideas and programs and policy supports, both at the local and national and federal level, and how to make sure those things always continually talk to each other and are reflective of the real needs on the ground. And so that's kind of why I'm really animated by both the larger sort of holacracy that we've kind of formed as a council, but then also the way that we can really get stuck into direct supports within the work groups. So hopefully that captures some of the things we've been doing. We've been talking about some really important stuff that both Joshua and others are doing at the federal level, some ecosystem supports that are coming down the pipeline at the state level, and then always how we're bouncing kind of what's happening on the ground up. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say that, you know, to that point about the role that culture plays, our cultural campus, that 12 connected institutions that includes Wayne State and College for Creative Studies and the Detroit Public Library, are also really thinking about place-based digital assets in the city, and you know how that really can sort of help animate and push forward that issue of connectivity, but also how it pushes forward the creative imagination around what digital tools and infrastructure can do in the built environment. And we're really excited that there's a student design competition right now that is focused on getting ideas from young people really tapped into the way that the cultural campus can evolve into the future through digital transformation. So that's just a little bit about what we have going on and how much we're really interested in continuing to connect and support what's happening through Connect 313.
Wow. Okay, so that's almost that. This is indicative clearly that we need to for our next membership spotlight, you all just do the whole thing. And yes, John, we can see your hand, and he's been very active in the chat and dropping all the links to back this up. I know that for some of these other ones, I know we have David Phillip. I know we have you queued up for the shared resources at the end, but for the other ones, Micah, could you just chime in and give kind of an overview on who we're looking for from a recruitment standpoint for these other work groups?
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to share this information. So when we look at the digital literacy and skills work group, this group will appeal to people who are specifically interested in making sure that there are adequate resources for training and coding, IT, and other tech-related skill building areas. Specifically when you think about employability in relation to digital tools and knowledge. So for our devices and connectivity work group, which is pretty self-explanatory, but this group is for people with vested interest in making sure that those who need access to digital tools and devices have it. So when you think about K-12, seniors, or any other population of people who don't currently have the access that they need to computers, tablets, or broadband access. And then for our structure and governance work group, this is for folks who are really interested in the organizational structure, functions, and composition of Connect 313. So members of this group will generally wish to participate in the decision-making process at each level of the organization. If Josh or any of my other colleagues want to add information for any of these areas, please feel free to chime in. Other than that, I will kick it back to Josh for the Shared Resources Work Group.
Thank you, Micah, for going through these. And David, the man with the best background, are you ready to share about on the shared resources? If you are, you might be on mute. Okay, he might be on mute. So as a high level for the shared resources work group, that is one where when we began looking at this entire structure, it seems that for advocacy and ecosystem, you can see Suzanne, she gave a really great overview of those. For digital literacy, there's an emphasis obviously on the training and the upskilling compartment, and device and connectivity, self-explanatory. Structure and governance, again, self-explanatory. For shared resources, those are things that don't really fit neatly in any of those. However, we can't really say no to. So as an example, when you hear about us talking about the data services, when you hear us talking about neighborhood technology hubs and community storytelling and community ambassadors, those are elements that are shared across everybody's portfolio when it comes to Connect 313. And that's not to say that the ones that I mentioned, that's going to be it. I think that really what I'm trying to highlight here is the value of the shared resources from a functional standpoint, that there are going to be certain resources that are going to come into the fold that might not fit neatly in any of these other buckets. However, those are things that can enhance our collective ecosystem. And so really for the shared resources group, we're looking for collaborative minded individuals. Obviously collaboration is listed in one of our values, that we're collaborative and that we're inclusive and that we're always learning. I think that shared resources is able to exemplify those characteristics in a way where if you are hearing that, or if you know someone who's able to think collaborative minded and within an ecosystem capacity, this is a really good opportunity to get engaged within that work group. So as we transition to the next slide, Jordan, I want to, one, be mindful of our ability to engage in Q&A. I know that we are.
Sorry if that wasn't picking me up.
Oh, well, there's David, but yeah, we're good. You're teed up for the next time. But when we're looking for, obviously this is a chance for Q&A. So for those of you who have any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. In addition, if you're looking at that email, that used to be my email, edmonds@detroitmi.gov. However, now that we have our Connect 313 website, if you have any unanswered questions, or you'd like to get a little bit more involved, or if you know someone who would like to get involved and you just kind of need them to send an email, please send it to info@connect313.org. And so that's I guess our way of one, getting us a little bit streamlined and getting us stronger administrative support on this. However, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to either ask them now or to reach out to info@connect313.org. All right. So
looks like we have a raised hand. Let's, Jametta, I am unmuting you. Or yes. So you should be able to unmute yourself at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thank you. And Joshua, thank you so much for getting this information to you. Really excited about it. Everyone, my name is Jametta Lilly, and I'm blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. And obviously, we are really concerned to make sure that parents who are often been marginalized and not the ones that many of us in this space have access to digital technology, that they all can get it. So we're really excited about the Connected Futures, et cetera. Joshua, thank you so much for presenting. So I have the honor of being on the Racial Disparities Task Force with the governor and co-lead the telehealth work group. And so I'm really interested in, and this may in fact be the case, so please just let me know. I would love to know if there already are health system partners that are engaged with Connect 313, because absolutely, as we talk about trying to address equity issues for our kids in schools, we've also got to be talking about in what ways are we responding to help people in the community, whether it's through workforce development. But when we think about COVID, we absolutely have to make sure that we increase the opportunity for telehealth and online and digital services in that regard, particularly since we may have an uptick. So just curious, there are some other health folks that are involved. I would love to connect, and I'd love to make sure that we're connecting the planning that you're doing here, which is awesome, with the discussions that are also happening with the statewide committee.
So yes, and one, Jametta, thank you for joining. I know you had in our email had indicated I missed the first one, but I'm going to be in the next one, and here you are. So thank you for that. And the short answer on the healthcare systems, yes, Henry Ford has been one. They've been a longstanding partner in these conversations, but as well as most recently with that telehealth grant that came from your committee's leadership. Wayne State has taken a leadership role there, but I would also say that there's always an opportunity for us to get more penetration, and so we've really been able to highlight the need for more of our healthcare systems to get involved. I think for us, again, looking at our value, being inclusive, being collaborative, we want to make sure that any and everybody who is able to intersect here is able to come to the table and feel empowered to be able to, one, not only share the work that they've been able to do, but to build some partnerships with this larger coalition. And so, yes to the certain partners getting involved, but also yes to the, if there's a way to get more people involved, can they come involved? Absolutely. And we would love to have any and everybody at this table. I see that there were two other hands that were raised. I'm not sure if that might have been a duplicative thing though, but.
No, that was me, Josh.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to expound on the question that was just raised. My name is David Underwood with Detroit Community Care Network. Has been working with this Connect 313 initiative for quite a few months now. And we do have telehealth services that we're offering for all families, not just seniors, but we do have the telehealth capabilities, and we do have healthcare partners. We have FQHCs. We've got the big providers, hospital systems as well, that we're in the current conversations with, but we do have telehealth capabilities and to meet the needs of the community.
Yes, and David is a David Underwood. See, David, you would have been on the other side of things. You're on the attendee side. I would have put you on the panelist side. I just didn't know who David was. But regardless, David has definitely been a constant community partner, and he does really fit the description of community and telehealth in a real unique way. And the partnership structure that he's building is phenomenal. Are there any other questions? And as always, like we said before, if there are any additional questions, feel free to send those to info@connect313.org. But if there aren't any other questions, I think that we can actually wrap this up and transition to next steps. So as always, when we're looking at getting folks involved, we have our Connect 313 listserv. That's where I know that I usually will send a recap of these events out from, as well as any updates around Connect 313 more broadly speaking. So please feel free to subscribe to that Connect 313 listserv. I know some people are saying, hey, I'm not getting the invitation to these larger Connect 313 community conversations. I'll say on the back end, what we're doing to mitigate some email slip is actually building out an entire a client to be able to streamline these communications in a way where everyone is going to be able to partake in that. In addition, completing the survey. I know a lot of you have completed that survey, but I would also task anyone to pass that along throughout the networks. So that way, within those respective verticals, when we're and within those respective work groups, where we're talking about getting people involved specifically in devices and connectivity, specifically in digital literacy and advocacy ecosystem, the other ones, that's our intake. And so one, please make sure that you're able to complete that if you have an interest in that, as well as pass those on. Jametta, I know that you had brought up the point around healthcare systems. I think that that's something where we can at least pass that through for any healthcare system that is looking at getting involved in whatever capacity, whether they need more devices to begin practicing telehealth, or they want to explore maybe creating some type of portal or getting people to use their portal, but maybe there might be low digital skill, digital literacy functionality within the target population. I think that this is a real unique way to coalesce around stakeholders with a shared interest. So that way we're not doing this in a segmented and siloed fashion. And as always, joining us for our next community council meeting. This one says in September. However, it's in November.
Sorry, I meant November. I typed that wrong.
However, joining us for our next one, I believe that date is November 12th. Do not 100% hold me to that, but I believe it's November 12th at 2 p.m. There, we're actually going to be talking about council nominations. And so from now until our next one, our work groups are still going to be convening. We're also getting savvier around getting folks on those work groups for some people who complete the survey. So again, please be patient with us on that front. We're figuring this out. But if there aren't any other questions, I want to thank everybody for their time. And please head over to connect313.org to give us a little bit more information, as well as I'm going to make this request too. Please send us your logos. I should have said that at the beginning as well, but please send us your logos so that way, as we continue to populate the Connect 313 website, we have the logos that are representing our larger partnership structure. But with that, I want to thank everybody for their time, their effort, and their energy. This is great. This community is growing rapidly. This is a recorded version of this with audio is going to be available. I'm going to send this out through our email, as well as upload that to the website. So with that, thank you, everybody. I'm going to end this recording here, and we'll be in touch for the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.